In your exercise folder for the DOM part of this title, we're going to open the file labeled domexample1_start. And when we open this file, you can see that it's pretty bare bones. This is a file that contains the business card information that we've been using as an example throughout this title so far. What we're going to do is use the DOM to show the user the information that's stored in this business card. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to write a script that will extract the information from the business card XML data and display it in a simple alert message. So let's begin by writing a function named display business card data. So the first thing that we need to do is obtain a reference to our XML data island. And the way that I'm going to do that is declare a variable called XML data1, and I'm going to ask the document to get an element by ID, and the ID that I'm interested in is right here on the data island, and it's XML data1, which needs to be in quotes. So now I have a reference to the XML data island. Once I have a reference to the XML data island, I now need to get the business card out of it. So I'm going to declare another variable named bizCard. And in this case, I'm going to ask the data island that I just got, XML data1, to get elements by tag name. And in this case, it's business card. Now, remember that getElementsByTagName returns an array. And since there's only one business card, I can just go ahead and add a little suffix on here telling the script that I want the 0th business card. Okay, so now I have a reference to the business card. And what I'm going to want to do now is declare some variables that will hold the text data that's stored in the business card. So I'm going to make a variable for the name and variables for the phones. So there's phone 1, phone 2, phone 3, and then the email. And now I need to extract the information from the business card. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to ask the business card itself to give me the information using the functions that we've seen so far, getElementsByTagName. So I'm going to say, hey, bizCard, get elements by tag name. And in this case, I'm interested in the name field. And again, there's only one of those, so I'm going to say 0. So now that gives me a reference to this name tag right here. But what I want is the text data inside it. And remember from earlier when I was describing the structure of the DOM, the text node that's inside a tag is considered to be its own node, which means I have to ask the name for its first child because that's the text node that's inside the tag. And then on the text node, I need to use the data property. And just to finish things off, I'm going to put a little label in front of this. I'm going to label it name with a colon and a space, and then add that to the result. Now I'm going to do this same thing for each one of the tags inside the business card data. So similarly for the email, I'm going to have a very similar expression, only in this case it's going to be email as the label. And over here, I'm asking for the email tag. And then once again for the phone, I do pretty much the same thing. Only in this case, I'm going to be using phone labels. And I'm looking for the phone tags. And since there's more than one phone tag, remember now that I'm using getElementsByTagName, it's going to come back with an array for the phone. So in this case, I'm going to ask for the 0th phone, then the first phone, then the second phone, because it's a 0-based index. That's pretty good. So now I'm almost done. What I'm going to do now is display an alert to the user. And the alert is going to show business card data, colon and a space, and a couple of carriage returns to format it nicely. And I'm going to display the name and the phone information. And once again, I'm going to put in some carriage returns so that it's formatted well. And I'll do that in front of each one of these. Actually, I don't need it on the last one. And now all I need is a way to trigger this function. So down here in the body, I'm going to add an anchor. And the href will call the JavaScript function for display business card data. So that's pretty much all I need to do. So now when I run this in the browser and I click, you can see that an alert shows up showing the business card data, and you can see that the information is being extracted properly. Well, that's pretty good, but we can do a little bit better. You notice that when we show the alert, the labels for name and email are fine, but we're not showing the information for the phones. We're just showing a static label. But what we really want to show is the actual type of the phone number. So let's go back and do that. Instead of having a static label for a phone, I'm going to do something a little bit differently. I'm going to have a variable that is the phone1 label. And this is going to work a little bit differently. So I'm still going to get the phone element. But remember, there's an attribute on each phone named type, which has the type of phone inside of it. So I'm going to ask that element to get the attribute labeled type, and then I'm going to add a colon and a space onto the end. And now, instead of the static label phone, I'll put phone1 label on there. And I'll do this for the other phones. So this will be phone2 label. And then this will be phone3 label. And I need to remember to get the right label for the right phone. And that's all I need to do. So now let's try this out. And you can see now that when I'm displaying the information for the business card, I have the name and I have the labels properly displayed for the particular phones. So that's a simple example of extracting data from an XML file and displaying it. In the next example, we'll show how we can further manipulate this data and manipulate the structure of the HTML page itself to show information.